King's Gambit is the topic of our next discussion. King's Gambit does not belong to the list of the openings frequently used, and that's not the opening I would recommend you to play with white. The reason one, because if your opponent plays correctly against this opening, and you should always assume that you're going to have the best response by your opponent when you choose the opening. If your opponent chooses the right continuations, one of the good continuations, and there are plenty in King's Gambit, you will have absolutely no advantage and maybe even less. And this is one. And secondly, you must be, if you're watching this program and this taping, that means you need to learn something about openings. If you need to learn something about openings, believe me, you have to learn a lot about chess as well. And that's not the opening where you're going to learn a lot from. So there is very little subtle positional play. Tactics can all be already played out in black's head, and they already may all know it and learned. So there is really, realistically, very little to hope for white. Many years ago, when modern theory was on a lot lower level, you could expect to get some advantage, some unknown position, and some sharp positions with the King's Gambit, but not today. I would not recommend to play this opening for white, but for black. Let's look. E4, E5, and you faced the King's Gambit. The best move I would recommend you, the best thing I would recommend you to play E takes F, and now the most popular response for white is knight F3, and here are many continuations for black. The most popular, from what I know, is D6, and after D4, play with G5. This is not a bad continuation, but if you want, this is not commonly played opening. If you want to learn something real quick and without much effort, then I would recommend you to play bishop E7, and that's how game may continue. White would play bishop C4. Now, why bishop C4 and not D4? Because after D4, you may go bishop H4 check, and king has to come up to E2. So that's why white will choose bishop C4 move. Now, we don't want to play bishop H4 check, because after king to F1, bishop on H4 does not stand very well. So what the good move will be here, knight F6, attacking the E4 pawn. White's normal response should be E5, not knight C3, because after knight C3, you can play knight takes E4 and getting most probably the advantage. Knight takes E4, knight takes E4, D5, or even after bishop takes F7, king takes F7, knight takes E4, and rook F8, followed by king G8. So that's not going to be good for white. So white's best response on knight F6 move will be E5, and then black goes knight to G4, and white castles, and black goes knight to C6, attacking the E5 pawn. And after D4, if you go D5, you guaranteed minimum equality for black. And what should white do here? For instance, if white plays en passant, E takes D, bishop takes D6, and now if they want to go either rook E1 check or queen E1 check. On rook E1 check, I believe you can simply play knight E7, followed by castling, and you have absolutely fine position. Same thing happens on queen e1 check. You could still go knight e7, or maybe even play king f8. Your king on f8 does not stand badly, because you may go g6 and king g7. This is so-called castling by hand, or even play maybe queen e7. You have absolutely no problems here. Now this is the something. This is the way. This is the way to one of the ways to play against King's Gambit. You can learn how to play against King's Gambit within a few minutes. After knight f3, bishop e7, and on bishop c4, knight f6. That's all you need to know. What I'm trying to cover in this set of openings is what is the easiest way to play with a minimum amount of material you have to memorize, and the quickest way to equalize for black without much effort in the openings that are not popular for white. Knight f6, e5, knight g4, castle, knight c6, attacking the e5 pawn, and after d4 going d5. This is, well, if white goes, for example, bishop b5 or bishop d3, you can simply castle, or maybe even go just knight to e3. Bishop takes e3, f takes e3. Of course, your opponent is going to get his pawn back, queen e1, castle, maybe queen takes e3, but then you go f6, you have two bishops, you have nice position, you have nothing to worry about. Your opening was success. White got no advantage at all. So this will be more than enough for you to know how to play against King's Gambit, and I would not recommend you to play this opening for white. Some people say, oh, King's Gambit was played by such a legends of chess like Bronstein and Spassky, but they played maybe once or twice, maybe 3-4 times in their whole career. But how many times they didn't play that? Thousands of times. So, of course, for experiment, you can play it once or twice, but that's not what I'm here for, to teach you experimental openings. I want to teach you openings that can last you a lifetime. That will conclude our coverage of the King's Gambit.